Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Barbara Hartman. Yes, this must mean it is midnight time, and we are getting ready to figure out what is going on with the Dogman for another episode of Star Fox Radio Midnight Lycanthropy. Much better. Absolutely delicious. You never know what you're gonna run into in the darkness while stalking monsters, so you must be prepared. Without further ado, it is time for Barbara Hartman and myself to take a walk into the darkness.
My creatures of the night, yes. Welcome back once again to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. Ooh, guess who we have back in the house tonight? We have Barb Hartman. I did mention to everyone she would be on bi-weekly, and guess what? She has returned. So get ready for a good one. Barb, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, excellent, my friend. I do appreciate you coming back on and hanging out with me. I've been super churning out stuff as quickly as possible, so it's always good to add some more things to the menu in the oven.
Yeah, you've been a busy guy, that's for sure. All good stuff.
I appreciate the support and the loyalty, and yeah, like I did mention to everybody that's listening, you've heard it in previous videos, but yeah, I just had to take care of a little rebranding and add some new things, but everything's good. All the oil has changed, full motion, and I'm ready to
Awesome.
charging. So yeah, what's
Yeah.
new your way, Barb?
Oh, not much. Just, same kind of just plugging away. And you and I were talking a little bit, about giving me some good pointers as far as how to share. I have such technology issues, and a lot of it is yeah, you want to share stuff, but my main thing is, I guess, research for myself, getting to know my clan. And yeah, it's cool to share information with other people, but then it's also like I really want to kind of like build my relationship and learn things about them, because I'm really in such a unique situation. I feel so blessed that they live around me and that they interact with me, so it's a lot of that too, because I don't want to neglect that relationship.
It make a lot of sense, and like I was encouraging you, you really should, because you are in a unique situation, and if you were to document that and share that with the public, and also you going out and getting yourself a GoPro, using your phone, and just adding in some of that creativity, which I can totally help you with, we will get your stuff for sure churning, because you could pretty much just do something along the lines of a first person, like Survivor Man type feel. Just go,
Yeah.
well, no, just going out there and just
Yeah, I
making it
know.
more
Yeah.
personable
Because
in
that's
the
what I do.
field.
I mean, that's what I do. It's just, yeah, learning to share a lot of that information too, because I do share some on my Facebook page, and the best, quote unquote, best stuff, on my YouTube page. But anyway, but that's not what we're here to talk about. That's not what your viewers want to hear about. But thank you. It's very kind, though.
No, of course, but you are one of the hosts and part of the squad, so
Oh,
anything we
thank
can do
you.
to get you
Thank
rolling.
you.
And before we dive in, I mean, to be quite honest with you, Facebook is, like I said, I have one, obviously, and I
Mhm.
mean, I have a group and I'm in people's groups, but the thing with YouTube is globally, I mean, as long as the country that is controlling YouTube in that region allows whatever to be shared. But
Right.
I mean, it touches the globe, whereas Facebook is a very interesting demographic. I don't know. It's hard to describe more. Everyone's on Facebook, but more family oriented, drama ish
Mhm.
people that are,
Yeah.
I don't know, just it's almost like
Oh, yeah.
the more
I get it.
generic version. And then, I mean, for example, you have Instagram where people are just more strolling. So
Yeah.
yeah, I do encourage you to spend and invest more time on your YouTube than on Facebook, because Facebook, Instagram, they're never going to potentially monetize you, and
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to build a brand and also create basically your own show and your own view on things, except
Mhm.
through YouTube, where they're going to reward you, especially if you create good quality stuff. So we
Mhm.
will definitely get you turning in that direction. And I do encourage everyone in the audience to check out Barb's stuff. And if anyone has any sort of encouraging advice for her, please do send it her way. And
Thank you.
yeah, of course, Barb. So before we dive into the Dogman thing, Harley and I spoke about this the other night just because we wanted to potentially see who was more responsible for missing people
Mhm.
and actual attacks on humans and animals, whether it was Sasquatch or Dogman. And I was introduced to some very interesting and dark lores. And I'll touch quickly on a few and then deeply into one of them. A few of the ones I had heard were Native American legends that were oral, meaning out of respect, we don't write these down because the individuals that are telling us it's oral and that's how they want
Right.
their
Mhm.
history and tradition passed on.
Mhm.
So to respect that, I don't write that down. I listen. And
Right.
this encounter was told to me about how this group of indigenous people would hear whistling and strange sounds in the middle of the night before these ape men or ape creatures would come running into their village, and they would sit there and grab the livestock. They would grab women, children, and the men would try to fight them off, but were usually not successful. And every once in a while, they would grab younger men and boys as well, and these individuals would never be seen again. And
Mhm.
I've heard of another legend that was an oral tradition about how in this area, this indigenous culture was having issues with the Sasquatch or Bigfoot, and they basically tricked them into a confrontation with these dogmen people, allowing the indigenous culture to vacate this area and never return.
Wow.
And now we got one of the most infamous ones in 1855 with the Choctaw tribe, the Trail of Tears, unfortunately, when they were forced out of their land in their area of Alabama and Mississippi, and they had to go over to a small, really confined kind of area in Oklahoma.
Mhm. Yeah.
And everything at first,
Terrible.
well, yeah, absolutely horrible. And I believe
Mhm.
12,000 of them
Oh,
stoically took the march, and
yeah. Oh.
2,500 of them unfortunately did not make it due to disease, starvation, and wounds, etc. And
Mhm.
well, they got to this area, and at first everything was all right because they did adapt and adopt modern day housing, which some of the Westerners had and such. And well, they had livestock, and they basically were as happy as they could be considering what had occurred. And all of a sudden, at night, there would be loud shrieks of these
Mm.
animals screaming out, and they would run outside. But by the time they would get there, the livestock would be gone: the swine, the goats, the chicken, the cows, horses,
Mhm.
didn't matter. So the Choctaw would start to set up a group of individuals to basically be nightly security. Didn't matter though, by the time they heard the shrieks of the farm animals, it was too late. And
Wow.
well, it took a much darker turn. All of a sudden, it started to be women and children in the middle of the
Mm.
night shrieking, being taken away.
Oh
So
gosh.
the Choctaw, well, they were not impressed with this whatsoever. And they got six brothers and their father, as well as some of their own tribal members, to go out and figure out what was going on. These six brothers were some of the best horseback warriors in the whole entire United States, and
Mhm.
their father was well respected, and also the Choctaw leader LaFleur was well respected. His name was Joshua LaFleur. He was part French, but also Choctaw, and he
Mhm.
didn't want to give up his indigenous heritage, nor did his family. So even though they are well respected in the French community, and
Mhm.
I believe the father was French, but the mother was indigenous, they spent a lot of time with the indigenous culture and made sure they were treated very kindly. So Joshua, their son, was actually the leader of a Choctaw tribe. And like I said, even though he was extremely educated in regards of modern day education, etc., he took
Mhm.
part in staying with his tribe. And they all went out to figure out what was going on. And they basically almost, not him, but some of them were getting discouraged because they were miles and miles away and had found nothing. Well, Joshua pulled up his binoculars and all of a sudden darted off on his horse. So they all followed him and they came to this extremely dense area of forest. And it reeked of rotting flesh,
Oh
decay, rotten meat, urine, just everything, feces.
gosh.
And some of the younger warriors didn't know really to recognize this smell, but the other warriors who were experienced with war and battle recognized the smell of decay and rotting flesh. Well, the majority of the horses began flipping out and did not want anything to do with the area. Well, the six warriors on their horse, their father and Joshua, were able to get their horses to go in. And as they were going in, the smell got worse and worse and worse. And they came to an area where there were partially consumed body parts, bones, all kinds of things piled up. They could see the bracelets of the women and children.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they were
Mhm.
able to definitely tell it was their loved ones, but they were extremely disfigured from being consumed. And there was huge piles of scat everywhere, where obviously something was in here just relieving itself while they were feeding. And all of a sudden, they started to see shadows coming around them, and out of nowhere, three of these huge Sasquatch like creatures came out, and they were supposedly had jet black eyes and were just screaming. And Joshua immediately charged on his horse, and as he got close, the Sasquatch just smashed the skull of his horse and made it
Oh
unalived
gosh.
immediately. And Joshua went flying off his horse, stood up,
Oh.
pulled out his revolver, and started unloading on the Sasquatch. It was a revolver, so it did some minimal damage, but not enough. And the Sasquatch lunged at him. He pulled out his sword and began stabbing it and was, well, overwhelmed, but holding his own surprisingly for what was occurring. But then two of the other beasts had circled behind them, and one of them removed his head, so automatically deceased. And while seeing this, the other men just immediately ran into action. They pulled out their buffalo rifles and started unloading on these things. And they said it, they took a bunch of shots, but these are buffalo rifles. They dropped two of them and they were unalived, and this third one was trying to crawl off. And after seeing what happened to Joshua and all their loved ones, they said they had no room for remorse and just finished it off. And ever since then, when they went back to their area, they could still basically hear what they said were the taunting cries of these beasts in the area, just letting them know that they didn't go anywhere. And before we dived into some of your Dogman stuff, I just wanted to hear your thought on that.
Oh yeah, that's very disturbing. But we hear things like that, and I don't know if you've heard about the events, which is nothing like that, but like in Ape Canyon, which is in Oregon, where there were miners that were,
Yes.
yeah, that had a claim, and they were, and then they were so savagely, they were able to get away, but just savagely attacked by the Sasquatch. But again, it wasn't this like one-on-one kind of a thing, this hand-to-hand combat or whatever, like what essentially happened in the in the event that you're talking about. Um, I don't know. I feel like, first of all, people say that there are different types of Bigfoot Sasquatch that,
Of course.
Yeah, and so it could be that. It could be if it's a few rogue that have kind of been cast out of families, because what I have been told is that the Sasquatch live by a code, like humans, but even stronger. If they violate any rules, they're like cast out of the family, they're cast out of their clan or their
Just like with a
community.
lone wolf or anything, for sure. Yeah,
Yes.
same thing.
Yeah, yeah. And so these become, whether they're, who knows, is it, I don't know what it would be. Is it just their personality? They're just inherently evil, it's maybe they have some sort of a mental thing. But then if there's a few of them that, that kind of team up together and create destruction like this, that would be my thoughts on it. As you know, I'm trying to think of, there was also I was watching a documentary. It was Small Town Monsters, and it's very recent. I believe it was called Sasquatch Unleashed the Mountain State or something similar. But they were talking about the Iroquois people were having similar issues with Sasquatch uh, in the Appalachian area, West Virginia, that the Iroquois would come and hunt, and they would gather in this area. It was a fantastic area to do that, but they never stayed there. They never would, bring their families and kind of encamp there. They never did that, and the people that were, like the settlers from England and all those areas, European settlers, they really couldn't figure out why. But then they started to also have issues with Sasquatch, with them, becoming violent. That's as far as I got in. I need to watch the rest of it, but it sounds like a very similar situation, except it did come to, like a war like this, like an out war. Um, I think that I know that there are people that say that they have aggressive situations with Sasquatch, and I think we have to look at each one of those separately. Why is the Sasquatch being aggressive? Why are they being jerks? Are they just a-holes? Are they evil, or are they protecting their family? They say that they're not territorial, in that they won't, they're not going to create any issues because of territory. They will just move on. I think it's probably not worth it for them to create huge issues, because then, I mean, especially in this day and age, with all the weapons we have, and for them to call attention to themselves by either stealing kids or people in
Of course.
in large numbers. That's just, they don't want to call attention to themselves like that. That's just, does that kind of answer your question? You know what I'm saying?
No, of course it does.
Even with researchers, like, what is their intent? um, what are they trying to do? I think that if you have, like, for instance, I was out in my area, and it was one of the first times that I would say I was actually doing research, and I'm sure that I told you about it. But anyway, when I came to an area that I felt like I was getting close to a potential nursery area, I got grunted at, and then I shortly thereafter got hit with what I now believe was infrasound. But I did not go any further. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go home. I'm not going to continue further closer to this area. Whereas some people, that are avid researchers, are like, oh no, I wouldn't have let that stop me. I would have just continued. And I'm like, that to me is just asking for trouble for yourself. But that's just me.
100%. And that is a very good way to look at that. And before we dive into some of the crazy dogman stuff you have, there is actually a couple of things. I think every animal is territorial. So first, because the second story has something to do with potential dogman and wolves. The first one, though, is pink river dolphins. Okay, dolphins are super chill and they've never really had issues with these, but as of recently, officials have had to put up signs saying don't play with the pink river dolphins because they have become aggressive towards people. Meaning, there was one woman that was potentially playing with one, and she had a ball that it was playing with, and it rolled off, and she dove in to get the ball, and this thing grabbed her ankle and rolled her under the water, and actually
Whoa.
did a ton of damage to her ankle before swimming
Mhm.
off.
Mhm.
So Those are river dolphins, and there was an older story back in around, I believe, World War II time, Lithuania, where this pack of wolves that was like 100 strong almost in this
Whoa.
area kept going into all these local villages and just
Mhm.
absolutely destroying people. Whole villages were being consumed like at night, just
Mhm.
boom. And there was a group of soldiers that actually stepped out of church one time, and as they were going to pick up their firearms that had been set outside, they were mauled by a group of the wolves, and they were
Wow.
never able to even unalive one of the wolves. They wounded a few of them, but yeah. So I think any animal, honestly, is semi-territorial, and that just kind of shows you right there. Once they claim an area, it's theirs. Like they don't really want other people to come in there. So
Mhm.
you did say, though, you had a few really interesting Dogman encounters recently that you kind of wanted to tap on. And if you wanted to
Yeah.
take the mic
Yeah.
and roll, let's do
Okay.
this.
Yeah, because I just kind of wanted to know, have you heard about apparently Southern Maryland is a very active area for dogman. Have you heard any reports out of Southern Maryland?
That's super interesting, and not particularly. There's actually a woman that is involved in the North American Dogman Project out of Maryland that is
Mhm.
always saying that we don't have enough information about
Oh,
that. So
okay.
this is
Yeah.
actually excellent because she listens to all of our episodes. So
Okay, great. Well, this is a
she
couple of
can,
things that,
yeah.
yeah, that she can look into. And I actually, I got some of this just from looking around, watching some YouTube videos of people that, you have to, like you said, always use discernment. But these people are pretty accurate and they're truthful. They're not going to just make up these bizarre, things,
Oh
which
yeah.
doesn't help. It doesn't help any of us if it's just, for the shock factor or whatever. And but so the first one was that this young girl and her mom, they were driving to Southern Maryland, going on a university visit, a college visit. And so her mom's driving, and this huge black dog on that was on all fours ran across the road in front of them. And so the girl said it happened so fast she couldn't even wrap her brain around what was going on, and its movements were so strange. They were not. This was not, typical like canine. I Unfortunately, they didn't expand on what she meant by that. This is just what this is what the report says, right? Her mom, who was driving, didn't see it. She didn't even, she didn't notice because, and that's how fast this thing moved, just streaked across. Um, a Later on, this girl was talking to some people, and they showed her examples of different dogman types, and she immediately, she was like, no, not that one, not that one, not up. And then when they showed her the one that has the German shepherd, like a black German shepherd head, she said, oh no, that's it, that is what I saw. So pretty interesting. What do you think about that?
That is super interesting right there, and thanks for sharing. And an interesting fact about German Shepherds is when it comes to domesticated dogs, they are actually one of, if not the quickest, to go back to being wild or feral because of the wolf lineage that is in their body. And same thing with domesticated hogs are the quickest ones to go feral again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just an interesting fact right there. And I wonder if maybe some of the, not that particular one, but some of the type 2 sightings where people see the black German Shepherd or large versions, German Shepherds get huge, like Jessica Jones's German Shepherd, that she's enormous. And
Yeah.
that's a domesticated one. And the reason I just say that is there definitely has to be feral German shepherds running around. Unfortunately, there's feral cats, there's feral dogs.
Right.
So there is some German shepherd that went feral somewhere in the world. And I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if, because again, a German shepherd's pretty badass and they
Mhm.
do have wolf lineage. So yeah, they could either be consumed by a pack of wolves or maybe they join it. So it's just interesting.
And also, when coyotes and dogs, right, when they reproduce, with coy dogs, you can have this massive. animal. I actually saw one of those, and it looked like a wolf, but then we found from the prints, no, it was actually a coyote. But so that's another thing I just thought of. It could have been that, because yeah, they're massive. Coy dogs they're just oof. But then there was another one that was also from this area, and this because I was reading, all right, quite a few, or watching and reading about quite a few. But this one kind of caught my eye because of what you talk about, the hyena, right? Um, so this one was along this in the same area, but they said it's a stretch of river that again has large amount of dogman activity. I believe it's the same general area, not the exact spot, right, where the woman and her mom were. So the same general area of southern Maryland. This area is also very popular with hikers. So, that brings about a lot of the reports. And there have been reports in that area of a hyena with a lion's mane. And I think you kind of touched on that, or you talked about that. So in 2000, 3 men were wading in the river. I think they were just kind of doing some fishing, and trying to find a good spot. So they're wading in the river, and they see this hyena type of dog man standing on 2 legs, standing bipedal, and it's drowning a deer in the river. And they're like, oh, what do we do? I don't think they have had weapons other than they're fishing, so they're just fishing. When the thing saw the men, when it the locked eyes, it actually bluff charged them. So then they kind of just backed up, and then the thing scooped up the deer with one arm and walked off out of the water and into the woods on 2 legs.
Jeez, that is absolutely nightmare fuel right there. And
Yeah, yeah.
before I make a response to that, I just had a click in my head too. Recently, your friend sent us that audio from New York,
Oh,
and New York
yes.
is
Oh,
not
yeah.
really necessarily right by Maryland, but close enough in that vicinity.
Mhm.
The Northeast, I would still consider Maryland right around-ish there. And
Mhm.
that audio is something that we're trying to figure out. We've sent it to our science team. I know Dan's trying to share it around. So it's super
Mhm.
interesting right there. And
Yeah.
that doesn't sound really much like any sort of animal I know in the Northeast, but
Mhm.
also hyenas do have manes. And I encourage anyone to look it up because I would share certain images, but with copyright and
Mhm.
YouTube, you have to be careful. So just type it into Google, type in hyena with a
Mhm.
mane, and you're going to see all kinds of subspecies. Well, there isn't all kinds because there's only 4 known versions. Yet the 3 of them have pretty large manes, and the spotted hyena also has a decent sized mane. And when it comes to the whole drowning aspect, I do know raccoons do that to dogs.
Yes.
And
Yes. Mhm.
anything with articulated hands, sure.
Mhm.
I mean, if
Mhm.
it's able to be disposed of quickly, even crocodiles try to drown their victims first. So, sure, wouldn't it make it a lot easier, say, for whatever was doing that to
Yeah.
just, if the deer was drinking water or something, to quickly
Mhm.
dispose of it and drown it
Mhm.
instead of having to maybe take it head on? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, deer obviously are prey animals, but they still have horns. They're
Oh,
still
and you try to take one down. I mean, I would never do
well.
that.
That's just what I'm saying. There's
But you
still
don't,
area for
right?
injury for
Oh,
a
they'll
predator.
hurt you really bad if you try to, you know, uh, don't ever trap them in an area. You know what I mean? Don't ever
That's what
trap
I'm
them where
saying.
I mean, oh
So,
yeah.
of
Yeah.
course, if that animal is able to just dispose of it like that, sneak up behind it,
Yeah.
and boom, shove your head
Mhm.
down, that's a lot quicker and easier
Yeah.
than, like I said, trying to
Uh-huh.
battle it.
Yeah.
Unless you're a massive grizzly bear or something where, you can take a couple
Mhm.
spear shots from the horns, I guess, and not really care too much. But the
Mhm.
majority of predators like mountain lions or wolves or, even a dog man that's a little bit more sleeker isn't going to want to take that. I'd say even a Sasquatch, sure, they're built, but I mean, does that really want to get a horn right through it too? Probably not. So,
But they have been, there's also been reports of them drowning deer. They come up,
of course, yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
mean, why does it want to take
Mhm.
on a moose head on? Because
Mhm. Oh
again,
gosh, yeah,
moose
yeah.
are one of the craziest
Uh-huh.
animals when they're ticked off at
Mhm.
all. And
Yeah.
so, same thing. Even though it's a predator that can take it on,
Yeah.
it's going to try to be as careful as possible. It's
Right,
no
not to get
different than
injured, of course. Mhm.
yes. So
Mhm.
that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. And like I said, with the
Yeah.
raccoons doing that, and anything with articulated hands really gives a big game changer over any other animal. Because I mean, canines don't really have much articulation in their front
No,
paws,
yeah,
but
yeah.
cats now have a lot of
Uh-huh.
articulation and dexterity. But now look at squirrels, chipmunks,
Hmm.
raccoons, anything that has hands now. It
Yeah.
really is a big game changer
Yeah.
as to what they're able to do. And I mean, that's not even mentioning primates and things like that. So no,
Hmm.
super interesting.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and it makes you think, like, is this something that is sort of an evolution, marker? That is this just a hyena or, something, and now they have evolved to their for their paws, or their, with which are massive, right? We know that. But to become articulated. I wonder. I
So
don't
William
know.
White actually are geologists, and
Uh-huh.
geologists do study fossils, like he says, and also are environmentalist, which is, she's very up to date to what animals should be in areas and also
Mhm.
animal behaviors. So the thing is with canines and felines, if you look at that fifth digit, it's no longer in use mostly.
Mhm.
It's especially in canines.
Mhm.
It doesn't get reversed with evolution, okay? That doesn't come back
Mhm.
into play. It's been
Right, right. Yeah.
rendered almost useless. But
Yeah.
hyenas with their front paws,
Mhm.
yeah, it's almost like they have an articulated digit. It's not like a
Mhm.
thumb, but potentially. And yeah, if something has been living in cave systems and evolving, sure, people don't understand again how smart animals are. Okay, animals watch things. All right. Well,
Mhm.
I don't even know how half of these neighborhood squirrels see that I brought my squirrel out. I let her outside and I'm
Yeah,
feeding
yeah,
her. I don't even know where they come from or how they see me,
yeah.
but they know and they come over and they chill
Uh-huh.
too. Okay. Sure. One of the favorite neighborhood ones come over and I try to sneak him one. Next thing you know, 7, 8. I'm like, hey guys, whoa, here we go. So
Yeah.
that's just what I'm trying to say is that animals
Right.
are smart and they learn,
Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
And they learn that, hey, I'm gonna hang on the door right here and look in until he feeds me, or like, and any animals or bears learn that people put things in dumpsters, and
Yeah.
great white sharks have learned that seals and things and sea lions in the shallow water are not paying attention to being attacked
Mhm.
because they don't think sharks are. Well, these sharks have adapted recently to go into the shallow water in
Yep.
California
Yep.
where it's pretty shallow for these
Mhm.
15-foot sharks, but they're catching the sea lions off guard. Like the
Yeah.
other day, I watched one where this sea lion was gorging itself on a ray of some sort, and these sharks just came right in, and this
Oh.
thing wasn't paying attention because it was in
Uh-huh.
shallow water near the
Yeah.
beach.
Thought it was safe. Mhm.
Yes. So again, obviously these sharks have picked up on that, and recently sharks have been knocking people out of their kayaks, and there's videos of sharks coming up out of the water, looking at people in their boats and kayaks.
Mhm. Mhm.
So moral of the whole thing is animals are smart and they pick up and they adapt, and that all those are forms of evolution. Okay, it doesn't mean like
Mhm.
I'm not talking about all of a sudden, oh wow, super squirrel man. No, we're not talking about that
Yeah.
evolution. We're
Or
talking
like
about
grew
the
hands, all of a sudden they grow
yes.
hands. Yeah.
No, we're talking
Yeah.
about I've watched
Mhm.
them evolve into
Uh-huh.
learning the time
Yes.
frames when I'm going to be around, learning which window to go to sit there,
Mhm. Right.
learning that they can sit on my AC, chirp at me, and I'll come get them,
Mhm.
etc. Those are forms of evolving to the situations that are presented to them. So if any animal is left undisturbed by humanity and such, they're going to evolve, but also with interactions with people, they're going to evolve. So I think people should understand that for sure.
Yeah. And it's a great example of what you're saying, of the behavior, and it makes me think of when you said about the pink dolphins too, is that this is something that's becoming, it's like a buzz word, or like a situation that's like a hot topic, I guess, in people, in, with whales, and particularly with orca. They're fighting back. The orca are fighting back with people with boats, and in kayaks, and
Yes, because we're
so
taking
there's,
their food, we're polluting their
yes.
areas. They
And
understand all of that. Yes.
also, like I told you, we live on the Puget Sound, and the boats, and even though this is completely illegal, and there's such massive fines. I mean, you can get like a $25,000 fine just for being, um, out, like closer than,
Hmm.
100 yards from these things. So the fines are massive, but they don't have, the live law enforcement is not available. So,
Yep.
so people just harass them so terribly, and they'll box them in, like all these boats will
That's what I'm
encircle
saying.
them.
That's sad. Yes.
Yeah, it's it's infuriating. Like I was like, oh great, when we moved here, I'm like, great, I can't wait to see this. But it quickly became like, especially at this time of year when there's a lot of boaters out, I'm like, I don't even want to see this because it's sickening. And yeah, they can be, but this is when you talk about family units, there could be like there's babies, that they're trying
Yes,
to
that don't
and
understand really what's
yes.
happening.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so anyway, yeah, so that's what's happening. And there is now in our area, there's an orca and his mother, they are starting to bump boats. And
Yep.
then there's another one that was bumping a kayak.
Yep.
That so yeah, people, be very careful, because yeah, these are wild animals, and yeah, they're beautiful and they appear gentle, but yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, you have to give them that respect.
Yes, you got to give them that respect for
hmm
sure. So,
But anyway,
did you-
like I said, it is an example of evolutionary behavior.
yes, yeah, 100%. And did you have another Dogman topic you wanted to touch base
Um,
on
the
before
the
we let
only
you get rolling, or?
Yeah, well, and you know what, we can save that. How about we say that for next time? Because we've really touched on some cool things.
Yeah, all right, cool, perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so much again, Barb, for popping
of
in
course.
tonight and investing some time with
Of
Midnight
course.
Lycanthropy, myself, and Star Fox Radio. It's good. You've been one of my big supporters, and I appreciate it because, yes, it definitely
Thank
takes
you.
some effort to get stuff up, but I appreciate the loyalty, and I stay loyal to the people that help me. And I no longer invest my time into individuals
Mhm.
that don't help me out back, meaning
Yeah.
I don't have like any free time. And I
Right.
don't know. I used to, for example, be like a really big fan of some of the really large YouTube content creators, but they never ever responded to me in
Mhm.
comments, or they would invite
Yep.
me to their discords, and but then I couldn't
Yeah.
post stuff, etc. So,
hmm
moral of the story is I no longer watch any of their stuff, even when I can't listen, but I can give somebody a view. Like if I'm editing my own content, I'll
hmm
put up your stuff, Harley's stuff,
Oh, thank
Jessica's,
you.
all in
Yeah.
the background, just to try to help out and stuff.
hmm
Or when I actually do have time to tune in, I will. Because, like I said before, I used to spare that extra time. And some of the content creators, hey, their stuff was great. It still is great, but I just don't support people that don't give me support back. Like, meaning if you can't even say, a response to somebody that
Yeah.
values your content,
Acknowledge.
yeah,
hmm
like then why am
Right.
I here?
Yep.
So
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, great. And I say, and I told you, and I mean this, and this is, you tell your viewers, you are really one of the kindest people, Kenny, that I've ever dealt with. So you keep at it. You're a great guy.
Appreciate you. Very kind words. I feel the same back to you. And
Oh,
I
thank you.
just try to make sure to be kind to everyone because,
hmm
like my late mother used to say and stuff, is that you never really know what people are going through. So you can
Absolutely.
either be aggressive back towards people and upset, or you could just take the high road and be like, hey, you don't know the personal demons or the issues
hmm
that each
hmm
individual is walking through in life. So
That's
I
right.
always try to be very courteous of that. And
Oh,
also when I injured myself too, and just realizing when I wasn't fully able to do certain things, it gave me a really big understanding for people that deal with health issues and injuries
oh,
as well. So
yes.
like I said, I just try to pay it forward and just really go out of my way to be kind to people and stuff. So
That's great. Yes. And we should all do the same. That's fantastic.
Thank you for everyone who once again stopped by tonight for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and share it. Feed the algorithm, and I must rest.